Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to KXLU. This is the Cosmic Catalyst on 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio. We have a very special show today that I have been talking about for so long, and it's finally here. It's finally happening. I am sitting across from Pamela of Kittycraft. I've been singing her praises all morning. This is something that I've been really excited to have happen. I've talked to you guys more about like wanting to do more interviews and live stuff with the show, and you guys that listen to me know how much Kittycraft we play on here. So we're going to be having a really special day today. We're going to be asking some questions. We're going to be hearing some stuff that probably hasn't seen the light of radio before. I'm getting a nod of affirmation. But yeah, would you care to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. This is Pamela from Kittycraft, and I just want to thank Thomas for inviting me on. This was super fun, and I'm super honored, and it's going to be a fun day.
It's my pleasure, and I'm sure it's going to be everyone else's pleasure to listen in. It's funny. It's like everyone up here. I've heard you talk about college radio kind of being a space that really loves your stuff, and where people kind of rediscover you sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I've found that very true. It's like everyone that I've told up here, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm interviewing someone next week. And they're like, oh, who? And I'm like, do you know Kittycraft? And they're like, no way. Like, so we'll have some of those listeners in today, hopefully.
Well, I'm honored. I hope I don't disappoint.
I don't think it's possible. We're listening to All Right by Kittycraft underneath us right now, off of Beats and Breaks from the Flower Patch. Mm-hmm. We're going to fade this out in a sec, and we're going to kind of get more into the interview. And we'll just be playing some things throughout, and it'll be a good time.
Fantastic.
Let's go into it. So, we've already introduced you. Mm-hmm. Just listening to this right now, I know you can't hear it, but it's playing, trust me. Mm-hmm. I have to admit that I did look through your playlist on Spotify, and I was under the impression it was only you, but I see now that it was maybe more people. But I'm interested if you could tell us a bit about your musical influences. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I mean, in particular, I'm curious about who, if anyone, you attribute the Kittycraft sound to. And when I mean that, I mean like, for example, I play in a punk band, but I don't just listen to punk. You know, right. I listen to a lot of different stuff, but I'd say there's a few people that specifically influence that. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if you feel like your sound sprang out of anyone influence in particular.
I think it's really a hybridization of like everything that has like that has created me, to be honest. You know, I grew up in the 70s, and I was and am a huge fan of yacht rock.
Totally.
For those that don't know yacht rock, it's all the mellow grooves from the 70s. And so that was a big soundtrack to my life, you know, growing up. And so there's something very comforting and warm about that genre of music that is very, I think even if you didn't grow up during that time, there's something very what's the word I'm looking for?
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic. It reminds you of something. It's familiar, even if it is not familiar.
Totally.
It kind of brings you back to a time, even if you didn't exist during that time.
Totally.
So I think, you know, that has ingrained itself in me. I've also played in a variety of bands throughout my life, like punk bands, and like, you know, I feel like I've been around the full circle of playing music, and I think it comes back to like, you know, something that feels really good and comfortable and thoughtful. And then, you know, it's funny, it's like, what are your influences? And then like Simon and Garfunkel. I've always been a huge fan. Like my parents used to play The Fifth Dimensions and Simon and Garfunkel. And so like this multi-part harmony thing is like really soothing and interesting to me.
I feel like you hear some of that through Kitty Craft. I'd say that
there's
shines through
definitely
for sure.
multiple part harmonies going on. Yeah, for sure. You know, and then being introduced to hip hop and rap and like the beats and the rhythms and the flows. And in particular, I was very struck with like 90s hip hop, where it became, there was like a melodicness to the loops and the sounds that just really resonated with me. You know, like Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
And De La Soul, and like there's this like moment in time that was really fantastic for me. It really hit hard. But then I also like some of the harder stuff too, you know. So, you know, when people are like, "Well, what's your band like?" and I'm just like, "Well, you know, it's like," I go, "Imagine Simon and Garfunkel with a chick with Tribe Called Quest," you know, like
That's a good way. That's a good way of
I'm
explaining
like,
it.
you know, this is the best way I can describe it.
Totally. That's a lovely way to describe it. It really does have that 4-track element driving it, you know, just that loop in the background, that the analog sound. It's part of the vibe. But no, we're all about that up here. We've my show is kind of crazy sometimes. It's like I'll go from like one of your songs and then I'll throw on like a punk track, and it's like, well, I don't know if that quite mixed, but you know, it kind of does. You know, it's like it's got some of those same elements. But so kind of branching off that. So one of my fellow KXLU DJs, he was telling me the other day about what new old stock means. Which is basically like when an older product that was never sold or released to the public is discovered and then released. And I realize that's kind of what your 2 new EPs are. And I want to get your take on that because I'd just like some insight into the I Got Rules and the It's Stupid EPs that you just released, or was it a re-release?
It's a re-release.
It's a re-release. Okay, gotcha.
Those 2 songs were originally on a 7-inch. Yeah, so I did have 2 7-inches back in the day. So yeah, it's
Totally.
off a 7-inch.
And so I'm curious, what do these tracks mean to you that kind of prompted that re-release now?
You know,
Was it just time?
Well, I think it was my partner Garrett. When we first met, I wasn't really doing music. I've been really focusing on visual art for quite a few years,
Totally.
as opposed to the music. And he was like, you know, we should release. Like, I had a record completely finished that never got released ever. It was just sitting in the can, and that was Lost Tapes. And he's like,
Which
you know,
is a lovely album, by the way.
Thank you.
It should not have been buried.
Well, you know, and that's the point I think he was making, is that, you know, you've got this great discography. Let's just release it on digital so people can have access. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. And so, with his encouragement, we put out Lost Tapes, which was new to everybody except for me, not new to me.
Totally.
And then we sort of went backwards and we're like, well, let's put out all the discography that, you know, had been previously released. So we're kind of re-energizing things. And also, apparently I was very prolific in my day, and I recorded a lot. So I have a lot of unreleased material. So that's been fun going through and
like rediscovering,
finding new pathways to release it, putting it as bonus tracks, or, you know, imagining new albums that can be done with it. So, yeah, that's kind of where that's.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How do you feel has the response to those re-releases and like sending out those unreleased like album, was it like a good response? Was it reassuring?
Incredibly. I am gobsmacked and honored and humbled and just absolutely blown over, just feeling all sorts of the feels with how much people have been supportive and really loving Kittycraft. It's just been delightful, surprising, and humbling.
Well, I think there's good reason for it. I think the music speaks for itself. I think Garrett made a very good call in giving you that little
That
push.
directive?
Yeah, just a little,
no.
just that little
So
push.
everybody thank Garrett. He's really the wind beneath the wings here.
Of course. I'd like to play one of those tracks for everyone right now. I'm thinking, what do we think? Should we do It's Stupid? Should we do
You want to do? Yeah, we
I
can
Got
do It's
Rules?
Stupid.
That one? Okay.
Now that one it's off the original. That was my first 7-inch.
Okay.
And then we did a compilation kind of album called Mew. So
Okay.
that song is
On there as
findable
well.
and it's on the record Mew.
Okay. Awesome. When I was seeing that you had re-released it, I was like, I have seen this song before, but I was wondering if it was like a different version of it or anything. But no, it's like,
No.
okay.
Yeah, it's
It's a new form. It's a new way to listen to it.
yeah,
a
just
new
kind of a
lineup.
best of, and I think out of the 7-inches,
Of
I think
course.
that one is probably my favorite song off that 7-inch
Awesome.
for sure.
Well, let's let the people of the world hear it for a moment. And this is It's Stupid by Kittycraft. Here we go. This is off of her recent EP release. That was It's Stupid by Kittycraft. We got a little backstory in there, but we don't have to call it out. You guys are gonna have to go in there, look at the lyrics, see if you can decode what that one's about. All you listeners out there. But kind of branching off what you were saying earlier, just about past projects, and you said you were in a punk band and all that. I am someone that likes to try and deep dive artists as best I can. So I was super hyped to find that Octocube album.
Oh yes,
and
well done.
I gave that a little love, which was so fun.
How did you get an Octocube album? That's what I'm surprised about.
I will tell you off the air.
Okay.
It's maybe not the way I should have. I was like
okay.
trying to find it the right way, and then I found it the wrong way.
Okay,
but that's
high drama.
Yeah, high drama. But while I was listening to and reading some of your interviews, I remember you mentioning Saucer, your first band.
Oh yes.
I do have like a 2-part question relating to it. So one, is there a Saucer album out there? Is there a single out there anywhere? Is there any way to find it?
Oh, I should have brought it.
It's okay, but I'm curious.
So interesting. Well, it wasn't quite my first band. I would say
Okay.
it was one of. I've had a few projects before that, but that was a big one.
Okay, totally.
And that was a band, and Kittycraft is really me.
Yeah.
It's all me. I'm like, the person on stage with like cymbals between their knees and a kazoo. So
And
so
it comes
after,
together.
yeah, all of it. And Saucer, I played guitar and I sang. And the other members on bass was Howard Hamilton III.
The third is important.
Yes, it is. Ted Kirsten was on guitar, and he did some vocals, and Pete Anderson was on drums, and they're all still playing music in their respective, areas. I think Pete might be playing with the Ocean Blue where he was.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was PP post Pam.
I'm going to start using that.
Yeah.
Everything on this show after today is post Pam. There we go.
So Saucer was, that was like kind of, it was melodic. It was kind of like, I say personally for myself, I was still kind of trying to find
your sound,
who I was personally as a singer, and musically I was more into, dissonant, atonal, but still melodic. Like some of my favorite stuff at the time, I was listening to early Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
And sort of the weird tunings, but at the same time, they're very hypnotic and very, wash over you. And I think they were listening to Glenn Branca, who I don't know enough about to say anything about, but what I've heard is really interesting. So I don't even want to speak to it because I don't know if I know enough to speak with any bit of knowledge. So yeah. And I did Saucer for a few years. There is a single called Orange Pants.
Okay. Gonna have to look that up afterwards.
Orange Pants. And that was a fun single to make. And then we got a demo deal from Geffen Records. And we started recording a record. I don't know if that record came out or not. I can't remember. I left the band and I think they reorganized it. So I think there is a record. I think it came out on Spanish Fly Records, which was a label in Minneapolis. I don't believe I'm on it. I think I had left the band at that point. So they sort of continued on.
And you kind of already answered this, but I'm curious. So that was how do you feel that that experience informed or prepared you for your solo stuff? You were saying that you were trying to find that sound, your own sound and your own identity as a singer. Do you think that kind of helped you realize that you needed to be a solo act, or did you enjoy the band experience? I'm curious just because I know there's a lot of young creatives out there that are in that element of trying to find who they can work with and what works for them and their own voice. And I'm worried if you could speak to that. Or I'm not worried. I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
I think that being in a band has its benefits and its drawbacks.
Totally.
And being solo has its benefits and its drawbacks. I think I was wanting to kind of pare it real far down. So when I got out of Saucer, I was doing 4-track stuff in my bedroom. I was just like, I was really into Sebadoh and some of his Free Weed, I think his album Free Weed, which is all like, I think that's when he had left Dinosaur Jr. and he had started doing this, tragic sad boy songs. And I was just like, I really wanted to just strip it way down. And so It's Stupid that you heard was actually just done. That was on from a 4-track recording. And then I slowly kind of graduated. And so I was 4-track for a while. And then I got an 8-track reel to reel, which Beats and Breaks was recorded on.
Which is awesome.
Which, I was thinking the other day as I was working in my garden that I think the reason why people are drawn to that record is because it was done on tape. It was done on reel-to-reel tape, where the other ones I did digitally. Yeah. So I don't know. This is just my own thinking and my own trying to parse it out. Like, well, why is that one like, I mean, I think there's a warmth to that just is very subtle but very present at the same time that people are drawn to that. So, and then eventually I worked my way up to working in Pro Tools. So the Lost Tapes was done in Pro Tools. So it's funny because I really worked up like from the most basic recording. Same with sampling. Like sampling, my first sampler was like a Gemini 8-bit sampler, which was like this black box that had a big button, and every time you wanted to loop it, you had to just hit the button. And so like it was.
So it was a lot of your personal timing as a musician.
And I can't say that I'm on beat so much with that, but it helped me understand. So when I moved to like a doctor sample, and beats and breaks were done with a doctor sample mostly, which is sort of the next level up from like a Gemini hit the button when you want it to play again. And so, but it helped me really understand the fundamentals.
Totally.
So that when I would jump to a new platform, like the base was there. Like I had a good understanding. I don't know where I was going with this, but
no, you're good. I can take that for a sec. I'm curious. I know personally, and for a lot of people, it can be so hard to get. You could just get hung up on. Okay, well, I need to do it the right way, or I need to do it like in a studio with a producer, with everything like that. I was wondering if you could speak a little more to that. Well, you kind of were just saying it, like building up and going from one kind of means of making your music to another. Did you ever worry about the production or about anything like that, or were you just following your own taste and staying true to that?
You know, it was interesting because I was coming from my band, which we had recorded in a studio. We'd also, I really kind of was embracing a rougher sound out when I left Saucer. I was really wanting to step away from super flash, clean production. Like, not that I was trying. I mean, I was trying my best, but I embraced the warmth and the noisiness more, because I felt like there's a kind of honesty with it.
Totally.
For me, at least. I'm not, and every person in band is unique. So some will thrive and some like direction. I'm a double Virgo man. I like, you know, if you want it done right, you gotta do it yourself.
Totally. I can't agree with that more. I don't know who it was that said it, but it was probably like Rick Rubin or somebody.
Yeah, probably.
But there was someone that said that like you can like do something totally produced, totally computer generated, whatever, but you need that element of like acoustic human element. You need something that makes it a little bit flawed. And I mean, you can get like the best, you know, guitarist in the world. He's going to play it like totally in time, but like a little bit to the swing to it or something like that, that just gives it that personality. So I think the more you lean into that, the more it, you know, it shines through. And I think that's why I was drawn to it initially. It's got so much character.
Oh,
it's got just so much character.
Have you ever heard the term wabi-sabi?
I haven't. Is that a term for it?
It's a Japanese term, and I think it's, for some reason, I'm thinking it's related to ceramics. Basically, where the imperfection makes it beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I think I have heard that actually.
Yeah, like in pottery, if there was a crack, they would fill it with like, you know, gold leaf to like show it off.
Yeah, accentuate
And I feel
it.
like Beats and Breaks from the Flower Patch is all about the wabi-sabi.
That's awesome. Well, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. I'd love to play. So Pamela was kind enough to bring in a bunch of CDs for the station, which I'm hoping will live here forever and be a part of our history now, because that's what we're all about. We love to have this kind of history on the walls and be able to say, that's when Kitty Kraft came in. That's when, you know, whoever came in. And for you youngins out there, I say that like I'm not young, but one of the best parts about having the physical media is the hidden tracks, the bonus tracks and everything like that. So we've got a few bonus tracks here off of Beats and Breaks, just because we were talking about that. I'd love to play one of them.
Sure.
Is there one you're partial to? Or I can show it to you again.
Yeah, I kind of need to.
No, you're good. You're good.
My memory is not so good. Let's see. Ooh, gosh, I don't know which one.
Which should we share?
Okay, let's do tracks times 2. So that would be number 12.
Okay. Let's let people hear it. Let me see. CD players, guys, it's a whole hassle. Track number 12.
Yes.
Okay. I had it prepped and then that CD player didn't like me.
Happens.
It does happen. It's devastating. Is it listed on the... I don't know why it's not popping up.
Track 12.
I've got the right one in, don't I? Oh. Sorry, guys, I'm being foolish.
Is it the wrong CD?
It is the wrong CD. I've got all my CDs prepped and then I do the wrong one. And they call me a radio DJ.
A little wabi-sabi.
A little wabi-sabi. There we go. That's what I'm going to start using all the time. Which one were we saying? We were saying number 12.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. We are listening to Tracks Times 2 by Kitty Craft. Here we go. There you have it. That was... Oh. You know, I'm going to let one of the bonus tracks run underneath just a little bit in the background while we play. But lovely track right there.
Oh, thank you.
I was just singing Pam's praises again. We're having some DJs tune in and say that they're enjoying everything. But yeah, so we were just talking about how sometimes an album can feel happy, or it can. Everyone thinks that it's happy, but really there's like that undertone to it. I forget which song it was. When I was a kid, I used to listen to shoot, which one was it? Girl by Beck. I forget which one it is, but it's like a fairly cheery tune. Cyanide Girl. One of
that's
those.
a giveaway right there.
Right, but that's the thing. I think it just cuts off on girl. So then you're like, oh, okay, and then you're listening to the lyrics and you're like, oh, this is not a happy song.
This is not a happy song. Yeah,
But-
I was telling Thomas that Beats and Breaks gotten a lot of love for it, and people find a lot of uplifting qualities about it. And I think it's interesting because when I wrote it, I was like kind of bummed out. So while the songs might be uplifting, the lyrics, they're not totally a downer. I would say that there's a lot of hope in the record. I remember it was like I had a full-time job that I did not like, and so
Was that the source of the?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I had to go. Like I had a 9-to-5 job, and I'd go do that, and then I'd come home and I'd record.
Which is awesome that you managed to do that.
I know. I'm kind of impressed.
I get home from a shift. I'm like, I'm taking a nap. I'm done.
Yeah, totally. I don't know how I pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
Pure grit. But I think there's like some hope that, in the songs, but a lot of them are just like really bummed out about my day job.
Well, I think that's another part of it that's kind of alluring, is the fact that it's true. It's not. I don't like hating on pop music, like super big pop music, but sometimes it can get corporate. Whereas when an artist releases something that's really true to their heart, I feel like it almost always gets some recognition, even if they're like very new on the scene, unknown. It's those songs that are true to them that everyone else kind of picks up on.
They resonate.
Yeah,
they
totally.
resonate with that kind of honesty and kind of bearing it all, like you're bearing your soul, and that's, I think, if you're honest in songwriting, it's a universal connection. I think that's when you're humming, if people can really feel that and connect with that. Yeah,
totally. I'm gonna switch gears a tiny bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I don't know how many of our listeners know this, but you are in fact a professor.
I am a professor.
Which is super cool. I like talking with people when they've kind of taken the route from musician, technician, artist into teaching, because I know that's a whole different world. I mean, one of the things that is kind of funny I don't know if it's funny, but it's an interesting observation, is sometimes colleges will try and bring in professionals, and that's not necessarily what makes a good teacher. So I'm curious what your experience has been like becoming the teacher and becoming, I know it's a different field. What could you tell us, what classes specifically you teach?
Throughout my time, I've taught a wide range of classes, everything from like introduction to drawing, introduction to painting, to upper division studio classes based in kind of more theoretical reading, and
so the whole scope.
The whole scope.
Okay.
Stem to stern.
I'm curious. Do you feel teaching has impacted your personal music and artwork? Not just music necessarily, but also your visual art, whatever you've been working on. Do you feel there was a shift at any point where you maybe adopted like a new mindset, or?
I think some more than others, and I think for me there was a huge influence, particularly when I was teaching the upper division students and teaching like what were some of the classes that I taught? I taught, oh gosh, I'm blanking on what they were. So the class would be created around a set of theoretical readings.
Okay.
And then that would be explored in their studios. That, to me, those classes, one was called storytelling. And I feel really bad because like a lot of the comic kids signed up for it, and then the first day they realized I am so in the wrong place. It was definitely an abstracted notion of storytelling in a contemporary art context.
Hey, that's good practice.
Yeah.
Their comics are going to be crazy after that.
I invited them to stay, but
right?
And so I had to hold myself to account, and so I was constantly reading new material to bring into the classroom, and I almost consider that like my second master's degree in prepping those classes, because I really had to do a deep dive on art theory. And so that was very influential in my own art. I can think of that probably as a time when there was a really direct connection. And my work got a lot more theory-based, more than like material-based.
Totally. Again, slight tangent.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young creatives that are... I think one of the fun parts about your story is that a lot of this happened for you when you were still kind of in that college age, like younger. Do you like finding your own voice, finding what you wanted to say, finding your sound?
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to any like young creatives that are trying to do that for themselves right now?
You know, one thing that I think really bums me out is that I feel like the environment that you're in is very different than the environment that I was in at your age. And I say this respectfully because I feel like there's this societal macro micro pressure for you guys to like silo and like, what are you gonna do? Here's your track. And I feel like that is contrary to a liberal arts education.
Yeah.
And I feel like liberal arts education was a lot more embraced when I was going to school. So like, you know, you do a little of this, you're like at the, you know, at the buffet, you have a little chicken, you have a little salad, and you decide what you like and you don't like.
Totally.
And I feel really bad for young folks today in regards to not having that experience being encouraged, because there's so much value in not knowing what you, not only knowing what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do.
Totally.
Right? Like, so when I got out of school, I'm like, I have an art degree. I had a BFA, and I was like, well, I better get a job. And so I went and I'm like, I'll do graphic design. And so I took a class in Quark, which doesn't even exist today, but this was like the grandpappy of all like
graphic design
programs. And I went for like a week and I was like,
no.
Nope. I didn't even finish the class. I'm like, this is so not me. And so knowing what is not for you is just as valuable as knowing what is for you.
Totally.
So I would say that the tracked mindset, I think, is I would discourage a tracked mindset. Now, I know school costs a lot, and I know that that's why we kind of have this, like, this more directed encouragement. But I think that at a young age, we don't really know what we're good at. And, like, you know, I get some students that are like out of the gate, just brilliant at something, and they're like, I didn't even know I could do that, you know? And it opens doors rather than, you know, closing doors. So whatever in life, I say being tangential is so important. Even if you can't do it in one way, do it in another.
Totally.
You know, go take a pottery class at the community college, you know, like go figure out, I often tell students, I went to a Minneapolis College of Art and Design for my undergrad, and I walked in a photo major. I spent most of my time a sculpture major, and I walked out a painting major. You know, and each one of those experiences still have, still are present in my way that I see the world and my practice and all these things.
Absolutely.
And so just be at the buffet. Go to the buffet.
There we go. So building off that, do you feel like you're still a student? Do you feel like you still approach everything like that?
Absolutely.
Do you think that's the secret? Just
yes.
To everything? Like
yes.
Yeah.
I think if anything, the only difference between me now and me then is that I trust that I can figure it out. That if you can walk away from a school experience with nothing other than like confidence in that whatever comes your way that you don't know is going to be, that you can handle it, you've got your money's worth. Like
totally.
That, I think there's a lot of distrust within oneself that I see in students today. And like with my art and music, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that I can figure it out. And I do. And so that's, if you can look at that and embrace challenge, I know that sounds really cliche, but it's a small thing, but a huge thing. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful advice. I do want to play a little more music.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's dedicate some to the students.
Yeah.
Of all ages.
Yes.
What are we thinking? We've got plenty of options. I want to hold off on
okay,
this one.
okay.
You guys don't know what I'm showing her, but there's the very special CD that we have.
I can, on that one,
This one?
since you played Octocube,
Mhm.
there's a song called Tonight, where that was the first song that, he went under the name Harko at the time. He was a Japanese, or he is a Japanese musician, Yoshinari, oh gosh, I'm blanking on his last name.
Aoki.
Aoki, yeah. I had met him when I was touring Japan, so Kitty Craft had a moment in Japan.
Which I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, we
Maybe,
can talk about that.
I guess we'll do the music first, and then we
Yeah,
can
and
talk
then we
about
can
that.
jump into it, but-
Because I didn't want to. Sorry to cut you off. One of the things that I was researching, I'm someone that tries to do slightly more original things with
Mm-hmm.
my interview. Like, I don't want to totally rip off somebody else's interview of you, so that we have more Pamela answers out there in the canon of Kitty Craft.
Oh yes, I like this.
But I would really like to ask you about that experience in a moment.
for sure. So, I have a song with Yoshinori Aoki, aka Harko, where he came to the U.S. to visit me. I had played with him some shows in Japan, and we became friends. And he came out to the U.S. And this was the first song that we had done together. And then his label in Japan heard it, and they're like, "Ooh,
They were like, yes.
this is really nice." And so that was kind of the beginning of the genesis of Octocube.
Which is awesome. If you guys feel like a deep dive, you should deep dive. Because I was curious, and now I'm prattling on a bit, but I was definitely curious going into it. When I heard that you had that other project, I was like, is this going to be like Kitty Craft, or is it going to be like a total break from it? But I feel like it's very in keeping with. It's a collaboration.
Yeah, it's me, Yoshinori, and then Christopher Heidman from Suckpatch.
But it doesn't feel like any one of you particularly. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a pretty even collaboration on all your parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had to be
A little bit guided by your hand, or
well, it only in that at the time this was like before, trading tracks and stuff. So, like I had to create some tracks for when he came over. So there's a lot of prepping and, but yes, I will say that there's equal hand.
we don't have to say that. We can say
No. I will say that it's equal hand.
Okay. I'd love to play this track. It's Tonight. It's off of the Lost Tapes. This one is on streaming platforms.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this one is slightly more readily accessible
Yes.
to the public.
Yes.
But let's hear this one. Here we go. And again, you are listening to KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio. This is the Cosmic Catalyst. Your host Thomas with Kitty Craft Pamela. Here we go. Let's listen to this track.
私はシチューを飲みました。今日の夕方、テーブルの前でお父さん帰りが遅いので、なんとなく部屋が静かでした。今夜は月が見えなくて、そのままずっと泣いていました。あなたは帰りが遅いので、朝まで部屋は変 乾いていました。
Welcome back, everyone. We just heard Tonight by Kitty Craft off of Lost Tapes, featuring Yoshinori Aoki. Getting back into it, you're listening to KXLU, 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio, live from Loyola Marymount University. Talking with Kitty Craft today. This is the Cosmic Catalyst. A lot of things to say. We just started to talk about the time you spent in Japan. And I'd love to hear about that experience. And I was mentioning, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Kitty Craft, was it Kitty Craft and Octocube opening for Chibomoto, or was it just Kitty Craft?
No, it was just Kitty Craft.
Which
Octocube was not even a glimmer in my eye.
Okay, just getting the timeline straight. But yeah, that is really awesome. And that was during the Sean Lennon era of Chibomoto. Can you tell us a bit about that? Just that experience, what that, how did that happen? What did it feel like?
Well, I had licensed my music to a label in Japan, and they wanted to bring me out for a tour and like press and stuff. And I remember I was playing at, and I might butcher this, so those who know this venue, I apologize if I butcher the name, but Akasaka Blitz in Japan. And I remember I was at a party, I'm like, oh yeah, I was talking to someone, I'm going to Japan and to the Akasaka Blitz, and they're like, do you know how big that is? And I was like, no, how big is it? And then
flash forward to standing on the stage.
I was like, oh my God, I'm like that. That's when it became clear. Like, so it was so fun and so just otherworldly.
Totally.
It was fantastic. And yeah, when I play live, I would bring in different musicians and people to kind of like play parts and sing harmonies and such. And so I believe it was Carl, can't remember her last name, Carl, who was with me. It was my first time to Japan and opening for Chibomoto. It was so amazing.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And I'd never been to Japan, and it was, I remember one of my most embarrassing moments, I will say this, is I walked out on stage and I said konnichiwa, and about 5,000 people laughed at me. And I imagine that the way I was saying it probably sounded super butchered and like had a really funny foreign lilt to it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, I just had everybody laugh at me. So that's an embarrassing moment.
But then you probably played a wonderful set that everyone enjoyed.
It was great. We played, I played Tower Records. I played like some sideshow, like some different like press events. No, it was wonderful, and Chibomoto was lovely, and I got to meet Sean Lennon, and he was a trip. He was really nice. Yeah, no, it was, I was a little band from Minneapolis. This was just like very much beyond my pay grade.
Totally. I'm curious how how or why did you end up going with that Japanese label for your music? Was there anything that pushed you towards that, or was it just kind of you wanted to send it a little farther?
Well, I had, let me rewind. I owned the music.
Totally.
So what I would do is I would license it to different territories.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so for instance, whoever released it in the US would just have the US territory and only that.
Gotcha.
So I was able to do that.
So that was the Japanese.
That was the Japanese
Oh,
territory.
okay. And they were the ones, were they the only ones that invited you over to, like, they were the ones that wanted to tour you around and make...
Yeah, it was Rock Records. I don't
Awesome.
know if they're around anymore, but yeah.
Well, we'll have to find
They might
them. See,
blown their budget on bringing me over.
I think that's a budget well spent. I don't know.
I have no complaints.
Hey, you haven't been sent the invoice yet, so you're fine.
No.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was so wonderful and eye-opening, and all the clothes fit me. It was so amazing. I loved shopping in Shibuya.
Right? So while we're on the topic of live music, I'm curious have you been up to any live music in the past couple of years, or can we look forward to a Kitty Craft return to the stage anytime soon?
Well, yes, I have
within liberty of what you can say.
Yes. I have been working hard, and so I'm interested in taking the music and sort of re-envisioning it for a live stage. So what I've been doing is I've been translating some the songs onto an acoustic guitar, and sometimes I'll play it with some backing tracks, so the loop will be there, and sometimes I can just go like straight up, really stripped down singer-songwriter, and it's just me and the guitar. And so it's been really fun re-envisioning these songs for a live audience in a different way. So yeah, it's acoustic guitar with me, and I imagine that it will once again be a sort of thing where it'll be kind of a rotating cast of people will back me, or I'll just be by myself, or there's a lot of open-endedness in terms of like how this can firm depending on the situation and
Totally.
and whatnot.
Yeah, I think everyone's gonna look forward to that.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it, and I did do a sort of, to that point, I did a live Instagram this last summer where I was just like, it was just me and some backing tracks, and so there was a little bit of a preview out there.
Okay.
I think somebody like put it on YouTube
Or something.
God help me, yes, it's out there. But yeah, so keep your eyes peeled.
Sure.
I see some upcoming shows, and I'm playing with some new music, and just kind of like, seeing where it's going,
Totally. Very exciting though. We rest assured you'll be getting some airplay over here and getting some coverage over here.
Thank you.
I not even necessarily just from me. I know that there's going to be interest over here. Where was I going? I had a thought. Oh no, it's gone. On kind of the point of playing some of your stuff on KXLU, I don't know if it was you or Garrett that was mentioning this, but I thought one of you guys said you hadn't been played on KXLU in a number of years. So you used to have a KXLU?
I think it sounds like back in the day when there was CMJ.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with CMJ.
I'm not.
So CMJ was the college music journal, and there was like a top 10.
And you got in there? You were in there?
Yeah, I was in the top 10.
There we go.
So there was some really supportive airplay out in California, even though I never played in California. I never went west. Yeah, I did. There was a minute there, a blip. I think I got up to number 7 or 8 or something. I was feeling myself pretty hard. Go. So yeah, so perhaps KXLU was part of the.
I'll have to deep dive it. I'll have to
dig into the stacks.
Yeah, well, there might be something hidden away.
Perhaps.
Hopefully, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
on the point of you coming back with newer music and adapting the old stuff, I don't want to say old stuff, adapting your previous
You can
work.
say it. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Do you foresee maybe a California show? Would that be the first California show then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
A little West Coast tour maybe?
Yeah, I don't, I'm keeping all options are open and on the table. But it's been really fun. And also it's been really fun getting back to playing guitar more.
Yeah.
Which on some of the earlier stuff it was guitar centric. As you listen to later Kitty Craft, I do play other instruments on there, but when I played live, it was really just more keyboards and backing traps and playing loops and stuff. So this one's kind of bringing it back to more of playing, and you can't see me, but I'm doing little air quotes, playing live. So it's been really, really great. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for something soon.
That's awesome. I think we'll all be excited about that. I'd like to segue a little bit. So you brought in something pretty cool for us today. So this, I'm holding in my hands, the Toy Town tape. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Can you tell us the history of this?
The Toy Town tape, so Toy Town, we call it the Toy Town tape lovingly. The Toy Town was a record label, like a tape-only record label in Australia. Wayne Davidson, lovely Wayne Davidson, ran Toy Town. So now it just sort of became the Toy Town tape, even though that's not what it was originally called. It was on Toy Town.
There we go.
It was one of the first releases that I have. It might have been like the first. And it was just a tape-only release in this from a label in Australia, kind of back in the day when it was like zines and tape release only. And you'd like send off a letter to this place in Australia and they'd send you a tape.
You were like, please make this for me.
Yeah, so it's sort of the first, this is all, okay. The original the original tape is all 4-track stuff. It's
okay.
all 4-track. In its re-release, some things have been added just to kind of, expand it out. And
totally.
so I can't say all of those are 4-track, but they're generally from the same era.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Very cool. I'd like to play some songs off that.
Okay.
Do you want to give any specific? I forget.
Here, can you give me the...
Yes, of course.
Let me see the list.
Let's see.
I would say...
I think we could probably play a few this time, but
sure.
Whichever you're thinking.
Let's start with Country Gentleman. I like that one.
All right. We'll let it play a little bit, and then we
Okay.
can continue our conversation.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, which track is that?
That's number 2.
Number 2. All right. Let us get into it. You are listening to KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio. This is the Cosmic Catalyst, and I am interviewing Kitty Craft right now.
Yay.
Yay. Let's get into this. Has it been her? This is, how many Toy Town tapes are there out there?
Original ones.
Like
Original
original,
ones?
or are you talking about the most, like there was a re-release recently.
Okay.
And I believe those were 200.
Okay. So fairly rare.
It's still fairly rare.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be hearing a pretty rare Kitty Craft cut right here.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
Country
You are listening to KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio. This is the Cosmic Catalyst. We've been talking with Kitty Craft, and we've just hit, we're a little past the hour mark for my show. It's every 12 to 2. Every Monday, 12 to 2. But I just wanted to end off with, we were talking about potentially playing some live music soon, which be on the lookout for. That's going to be so cool. Yeah. I'll be in the front row, so if you want to meet me, just look for the dude with the crazy hair. But I was wondering if you wanted to tell us about any current projects where we could find some of your music.
Yeah. So if you're interested, there's and you also like physical objects that you can hold, touch, and keep. There's some CDs for sale. I think there's some tapes for sale on my Bandcamp page.
Yeah.
There will be a new re-release of the Beats and Breaks from the Flower Patch vinyl.
Oh, I
That's
will definitely be buying
coming
that.
I've gotten a lot of requests for that. It's going to be like a deluxe version, so it's going to be super fancy and nice. And so we're working with Darla Records on that.
Cool.
And I don't know the timeline necessarily, but keep your eyes peeled for that, because I think people are excited about that record on vinyl, as am I. I think, yeah, just, I have an Instagram page that I keep pretty up to date, and I like to post stuff. So come say hi.
Yeah.
And yeah, just thanks for listening and just supporting, and yeah, come say hi.
It's a great Instagram account. They're always posting stuff. They're always doing cute little updates. Yeah. You've been listening to KXLU 88.9 FM Los Angeles Radio. This has been the Cosmic Catalyst interviewing Kitty Craft, and that is it for this interview. We'll catch you guys next time.